on this episode of the Mad Rush podcast.
I got to find what I'm happy with and not what I wish was different, because a lot of it's just out of my control. And my grandmother, when I was in probably middle school, maybe elementary school, gave me a journal to write down 3 things I was thankful for every day. And I did that for years, and I've done that as an adult too, because I think we forget often how lucky we are to have so many great things, so many great friends, so many great family members, and focus on the negative, and my brain can often go there. But I think something that's so helpful is going, okay, every day I'm going to write down a few things that have been so good. And looking back at my list from college, I'm like, gosh, yeah, that was really good. In the moment, there were a lot of hard things, but those few moments were really good.
Welcome to the Mad Rush podcast. I'm Trisha Addicks, the original sorority rush consultant. While the stories I have to share are nothing short of astonishing, this podcast goes beyond the wild client tales and sorority life. I'll be engaging with fascinating guests from both within and outside the Greek world, uncovering the surprising connections that bind us all together. Join me for a journey that's as entertaining as it is enlightening. Welcome to Mad Rush. All right, so today on Mad Rush, you are in for a treat. My guest, Mary Spencer Veazey, is a Georgia native. She grew up in Tifton, Georgia, if you're familiar with that. And Tifton is where my favorite and only Aunt Charlotte taught English at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College for years. Yeah. Mary Spencer, it's a double name, is living in Nashville and is an author and engagement manager for Daystar Counseling Ministries. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
So I've got a comment on the double name. Yeah. I had a conversation with someone this week. You know, we just finished spring rush at a lot of schools. Yeah. And this person said to me, I am the first double name to get into Theta. And I was okay.
I mean, they're keeping track of that. That's hilarious.
I know. I was like, wait, what? I mean, and we've had a few double names on this podcast already. And now we have you. And I'm going to start keeping track of it because that's cool.
See how many you have? I mean, there's a lot of us in the South. So
yeah. And my freshman roommate, one of my best friends from high school, she's one of the reasons that I have this business is because I was living with her when I didn't get in a sorority my freshman year. But her name is Anna Lindsay. And she used to always say, hi, I'm Anna Lindsay. It's a double name.
That's me every day. Well, now I've gotten so old that people are like, oh, is Spencer your maiden name? I'm like, no, it's just my double name.
Yeah. Like, I love a double name. All right. So you guys might remember Smith Childs. I call her Smithers. She was on this podcast and talked about her experience at Furman and the path she took to write her book, Embracing Your Story, which is a great book. And I recommend it to all of our clients. Smith's book is a wonderful guide for young women in their teens. And Mary Spencer, today's guest, is a close friend of Smith's, and her book, Cul-de-Sac Crosswords, is about navigating life's twists and turns in your 20s with courageous clarity. Incidentally, the book's title. Before we dive into your book, let's talk about you and your journey and all the things.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so I grew up in Tifton, Georgia, where everybody is a Georgia fan.
Go Dogs!
I know. And so I thought if I got into UGA, I was going to UGA. That's just kind of what you do. If you get in, you're going. And I got into UGA and I thought, okay, this is what I'm doing. And right before you kind of had to decide where you're going to school, we had a senior skip day. And I was a goody two-shoes. I didn't want to get in trouble. So I said I was going to go tour college. So that would count as my excuse to go somewhere, but not also be at school. So me and my parents went to Auburn. I had already gotten into UGA. I thought I was going there.
Wait, did you say your parents went to Auburn?
No, they went with me for the tour.
Okay.
My dad didn't go to college. My mom went to Valdosta State. So, but they are big Georgia fans. My dad's a huge Georgia fan. So he's thinking, I'm going to UGA. He's so excited. And we go on the Auburn tour. And while we're on the Auburn tour, I look at them and I go, I'm actually going to go here.
Wow.
And they were like, wait, really? And I was like, Yeah, I think so. So I put down my deposit before I left Auburn's campus, and I got to school the next day, and everyone was like, "You're going to UGA?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I'm going to Auburn." I didn't know anybody at Auburn. I became the black sheep of my family. One of my cousins was like, "I'm never going to speak to you again. You should have gone to UGA." Like, it was a huge thing. So I decided to go to Auburn. I think it's going to be so glamorous to go to a school where I know no one. In the movies, they're like, be the mysterious new girl. It was not fun at all. So I get there.
Wait, how old are you? What year was this?
This is 2015. So 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, that's so weird to think about. But yeah, so I go through Rush right when I get there at Auburn. And I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think I've got good grades. I can talk to a brick wall. It'll be fine. And the first couple rounds were fine. A few sororities cut me. I cut a few. And then the last 2 rounds, I went from having 12 houses to 2. And I was like, oh, okay, what happened? I was in total shock because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything about sororities. And then the very last round for pref, I only had 1. I didn't have any options. I just had 1 sorority left. So I was devastated. I thought, why does nobody want me? I would go into the parties and see these girls hug each other that knew each other from high school. And I was like, I don't know a single person. So I get into my sorority and I'm kind of like, do I drop? Do I stick it out? But I had just heard so many good things about being in a sorority. So I was like, I'm just going to stick it out for a little bit and see. And I ended up loving it. But it was hard to get adjusted at Auburn because there's 18 sororities. It felt like everybody got what they wanted. And I was acting on social media like I got exactly what I wanted, even though I was crying on bid day because I only got 1 option and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. But I got into my sorority and met all these incredible girls and had the best time and really fell in love with my sorority and ended up becoming the vice president of new member education. So I got to be all over all the PNMs that came in my junior year, and there were 80 of them. So it was a lot.
So that story, I love to hear that because 1, it only takes 1. And 2, I think something that I really try to explain to people is bid day is not always like all sunshine and roses.
No, it wasn't.
It's really not. And I actually had someone call me this week about that. And they were like, I don't know if I should drop. Mm-hmm. And my advice to her and to every person that this happens to is you've taken a bid. So you cannot go through Rush again until the following year if you drop out. So it's different than dropping before you sign a bid card.
Right.
So my advice is exactly what you did. Like you really tried to make it work, and it does. And, you know, if you really, really, really try, it can work out. And it usually does.
Yeah, it was exactly where I was supposed to be. And the sororities that I thought I wanted, I ended up seeing girls that became friends of mine drop out of those sororities because they weren't at all what they thought it was going to be. So you don't really know what you're getting yourself into until you get kind of in it for a semester or 2. But yeah, I ended up really loving it. It was girls that I would have never met otherwise. I mean, they were from all over the country and all different backgrounds. And it was not at all what I expected, but exactly what I needed. So,
and I love that too, because a lot of times people will focus, not my clients, because I don't let them, but focus on just like a certain few sororities because of their maybe like the top houses or their whatever their reputation is. But then it's all about finding your fit. So like a lot of people, if they really like barrel their way in to a sorority or find a way to do that, sometimes it's not a fit. And then you feel more isolated once you're in. So that is what we focus on, is finding your fit, which is what you did. No, will you say what sorority you were in?
I was in Delta Zeta.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. We have some clients who love Delta Zeta at Auburn.
I ended up really loving it. I mean, it was just a neat experience, and so many different girls from all over the country. And my sorority was kind of like the athletic, brainy sorority, and they were just a ton of fun. So I'm really glad I ended up where I landed, but if you had told me that bid day that I was going to end up loving it, I would have been like, probably not.
Yeah. And so if you're listening, y'all, this is really good advice. Or not advice. It's just something to remember that if you give it a try, it really can work out. And what I meant to say, so people who are focusing on sororities in, like, you grew up in the South, and so you probably heard that certain sororities are where you wanted to be or should be. But the cool thing about all these people wanting to come South, and I think that's a result of social media and just now the colleges have more rigor. So, people are willing to come South for the educational as part of it as well. Definitely. But they're great people, but they don't have a preconceived notion of like the top sororities or where you should be. And so they're like, oh, wait, I really like the girls in X sorority. And then you get such a great experience with people that aren't all from, all from Alabama or, or whatever, who grew up thinking, okay, I have to be a whatever at Auburn. It's people who don't come in with that. And so then you get friends from you can go visit them in the Hamptons or wherever, cool things like that, you're not people from Alabama as a rule. I don't think, I'm not trying to generalize, but they don't have houses in the Hamptons or you can go visit them in New York or wherever they're from. And it's super cool. And I think that says a lot about you, that you gave it a try and then ended up falling in love with it.
Yes, I loved it. And that's exactly right. Yeah, I had friends from California, New York, Philadelphia, just all over. And I would have never met people from there otherwise. And they had no idea going through Rush anything about the sororities. They just went with which ones they liked the best, which I was kind of jealous of, that they didn't have any kind of preconceived notions, because I went in kind of going, okay, my mom was a FIMU. I probably want to be a FIMU. Well, I didn't know anything about any of the girls in FIMU. So yeah, it's good to go in with as little knowledge about it as possible, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good to, instead of focusing on certain sororities when you're preparing, it's really good to just work on yourself and what you can do, what you can control, and showing your confidence. And, it was probably, or not probably, you said it was devastating to be so scared and only have one option at the end, but it's, it only takes one. I say that all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
So go through college and how'd you end up here, where we are today? And I want to hear all about your book, even though I have read it. I've read it, but I want everyone else to read it. It's really great. And I want you to talk about how you got there. And I think it's the perfect book for listeners to listen to or read.
I know I haven't done the audiobook version yet, but hopefully one day.
Wait, can I ask you, I don't mean to interrupt you. So when you have a book, what do you mean you haven't done the audio version? Do you have to, do you have to do that yourself? Like, do you read it?
Well, I can, or I could have someone else read it, but I'd probably do it with my voice. I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. I didn't really think people listen to books as much as they do, but I've gotten a lot of requests for audiobooks. But yeah, you can do it before it comes out, after it comes out. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I just haven't working full time and writing a book. I just was like, you know what? We'll get there later.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you really do have a great voice. So, I mean,
thank you.
She has a face for radio too, but she has a voice for radio. But so yeah, I think you should do it. If you want my advice, I think you should read it whenever. Okay. But yeah, I used to read every single night. I'd get in bed at 10 or whenever and read for 2 or 3 hours. Oh, wow. And now I'm crazy busy, like so many people. And so I'm now at the age where I'm starting to fall asleep and can't do that. So I listen to books a lot now, which I never did before. I think I'm on my 40th. Well, when 2024 ended, I listened to 40.
That's amazing.
That in 2024. Anyway, I digress. So talk about your process and your book.
Yes. So I got to Auburn and I had no idea what I wanted to major in either. I thought maybe I wanted to be a physical therapist. I don't know why I thought that. I don't like science. I don't like math. I was immediately like, I don't think this is a fit for me. And Auburn's now switched everything to electronic, but whenever you changed your major, you'd have to carry your folder to the college where you were now switching your major to. So I switched my major 4 times. I did the walk of shame with my folder 4 times, switched my major.
So wait, what were your majors? What did you?
I was in, let's see. I applied to Auburn for physical therapy, like pre-physical therapy. And then I was like, ooh, that's really not for me. So I switched to what they have. It's called exploratory. It's for all the people that don't know what they want to do with their lives. So you take this class, you do all these personality tests. They tell you what's a good fit. And at the end of the class, the result I got was a bartender. My parents were like, we didn't pay for you to go to college to be a bartender. So no. So then I switched to child life. I wanted to be a child life specialist. And then I finally landed on public relations. And I just didn't even know that was a career that you could have. So I switched to that. And then I minored in creative writing. I always wanted to write, but I didn't think I could do that full time. And my parents were like, just do that as your minor, like just have that on the side in case. So I did that. I think I was the only sorority girl in my classes for creative writing. That was a very like artsy, mysterious group. And I would wear my
mysterious. I love that.
Whenever I would wear my sorority t-shirts, I'd kind of be like, hey guys, like, don't worry. I'm one of you. So in these creative writing classes, and they were so much fun. I took poetry writing. I took fiction writing, nonfiction writing. And one of my favorite stories in my poetry writing class, poetry really wasn't my thing. I wanted to write nonfiction. And we had to write these poems. And then you would pass your poem around to the class. And they would kind of critique it, but you couldn't talk while they did it. And one morning I forgot it was my turn to have a poem. So I just watched Annie. I think they had been on TV, like the live action Annie.
It's a hard knock life.
Yes, exactly. So I wrote a poem about an orphan and and I passed my poem around, and you can't talk while they're critiquing it. And some of the kids in my group were like, wow, we really love this poem. The themes of deforestation are so strong. And I was like, deforestation? I don't even really know what that is, but I couldn't say anything. So for 30 minutes, they're like, yeah, this is our favorite poem of hers, deforestation. I mean, this is just fantastic. And I was like, I've been misread, but I'm going with it. And after the class, one of the guys was like, was it really about deforestation? And I was like, absolutely, 100%, 100%. So I had a lot of really funny classes in college.
Oh my God, I'm crying. That's hilarious.
I had so many. I had some kids in my class that are into LARPing. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, what is that?
Live action role playing. So they would go out to the park and dress up and like sword fight each other.
They do that in Nashville. She's in Nashville, y'all. There's a park near my friend Janie's house where they're like in cloaks and they're, do you know where I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's close to my house too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was like, every time I go, they're doing that. And I'm like, I didn't know what it was called, but I'm always like, why are people in cloaks?
I didn't know what it was before. Yeah. When I was in the class, they were like talking about LARPing. And one day I said, what is that? And every head in the class turned to me. And I was like, what have I done? They're like, you don't know what LARPing is? I was like, I do not. And they told me about it and they invited me to come. I wish I had gone, but I never did. But anyway.
You could wear your sorority shirt and go to the LARPing meet or the match or whatever it is.
Yes. They were hilarious. I had a girl in my class after she heard a guy that was a LARPer. She was like, I'm a LARPer seamstress. And I was like, what is happening? Did they just fall in love? So yes,
LARPing seamstress.
Yes, I was like, am I being punked right now? And that day, I kid you not, Trisha, it was so crazy. We had a sub in our class. I'll never forget it. I didn't know you had subs in college because usually they just cancel class.
I was going to say.
Yeah, and we were going around and the sub was asking us our names, and then the sub said, do you like your professor? And some of the kids were roasting my professor, and I was like, this feels like a trap. I'm not saying a word. And so then at the end of class, one of my classmates looks at me and goes, that's our professor's husband. And I was like, are we on TV right now? What is going on between the LARPers and our professor's husband being our sub? Like, it was just out of a movie. So anyways, I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
No, that's my favorite thing I've ever heard. Y'all, I mean, I don't like to wear makeup for many reasons, but one is because when you have a podcast guest that makes you cry laughing, now I have black rivers running down my face. That is hilarious.
It was so much fun being in those classes because I was like, every day, I don't know what to expect. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen in creative writing. So,
did you ever have to take Old English by any chance?
I don't think so.
So I was an English major. I have to interject my own story. It's not funny. It's not funny like that. But so I was an English major. And well, first I'll tell you that in my senior seminar, there were 12 people in it. And everybody, this was like when you wrote your final whatever. And the professor looked at me. All right, this is spring of my senior year at Georgia. And he's like, you picked the wrong major. I was like, thanks. Like, it's a little late for that.
Like, I can't change now.
But I was trying to find a class. This was not my senior year. I was trying to find a class that would fit into my schedule because I didn't want to get up at 7:50. Only thing I could find was Old English.
Oh,
and
boy.
Old English, if you don't know, is a completely different language. And this was a graduate level class. So like they're speaking like, it's like even more than like Beowulf. Like it's actually, and these people are same thing. There were a lot of cloaks and these people were speaking in this language. And I mean, I remember my highest grade in that class was a 13. Oh. And like that out of 100. Oh, and the professor, I got so lucky because I was dating my now husband and he volunteered to coach soccer in Athens. Yeah. And the Old English professor's son was on the 4th grade soccer team.
Like, thank goodness.
And so I was like, Greg, you got to get me. You got to get me on this. And so the professor was like, I met your boyfriend and he said, you're really struggling. And I'm like, yeah, I had a 13 on the test. Like, I don't know that you needed to meet him to know I'm struggling. Yeah. But anyway, he ended up giving me, I passed the class because he curved. Because he was like, wait, you're in the wrong place. You should not be here.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, anyway. So okay, so I will not interject, but that was really funny. And it just made me think of there are artsy people. Yes. And there's some of like my favorite people, but we're different than wearing the sorority formal t-shirts.
Right. Yeah. I love those people. And they also were just kind of like, your sorority vibes. And I was like, no. You've stereotyped me and I've stereotyped you. Let's be friends. Let's be friends. Oh,
that's such a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And they eventually warmed up to me, but yeah,
they did.
It was hysterical. I mean, those classes, I would get home from class and my roommates would sit down and be like, what happened today? Like, tell us what happened today in creative writing. So anyways, it was a really good time. But yeah, I took all those classes in college. And then at the end of my senior year, I had this idea for a book. Originally, it was going to be called 22 and Not a Clue because I was about to graduate. And I was like, what do you do once you get out of college? Like, I know you got to get a job, but where? Right. And where am I going to move? And who am I going to be friends with after I just spent 4 years making friends? And I was just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I started writing down these stories and I was like, I don't think I'll do anything with this. But I've been writing on a blog for years and I would put some of the stories on the blogs and people would say, you need to turn this into a book. And I was like, great. Do you know anyone that can publish it? Because I do not know how to do that. So fast forward, I get to Nashville. I go to grad school at Belmont. I get my master's in business, which that was kind of a similar situation. They were kind of like, what are you doing here? Like, you're real creative minded business, accounting. It's not working out that well. I was, oh my gosh, in finance, I think I made a 52 on one of my tests. And I wrote in the column, please have mercy on me. I'm just a girl. And my professor was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just trying to pass. So got my MBA, graduated during COVID. And I was like, I don't where do I get a job? I would apply for jobs and they would say, we really liked you, but this person that got laid off that has 7 years of experience wants to take the salary that an out of college kid would take. So we're going to go with them. So I finally have been volunteering for this nonprofit in town, and they were hiring, and I was like, you know what, I'll work there for a little bit and then I'll go and work for a big corporation. And my boss, a few days into me working for the nonprofit, was like, you're always going to work for a nonprofit. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I
love profit.
Yes, I love profit. I love profit, and this is not profitable in my pocket. So I thought I'd be there for a few months, was there for 2.5 years, fell in love with the nonprofit world, and then started working for Daystar Counseling in Nashville about a year and a half ago. And I have some coworkers that have written books. And right before I started at Daystar, I had signed a book deal. This publishing house had just started and was looking for new authors. So I started working full-time, new job, and was writing a book at night. And I would get home from work, write until I fell asleep, and then do it all over again for 6 months. And it was exhausting, but so worth it. But I obviously am very extroverted. So I have to tell my friends, do not call me, do not text me, do not tell me what you guys are doing this weekend. I don't want to know. Like, I got to sit at home and write this book. So it took a while to write the book. And everyone says it's so hard writing a book. Only 1% of the people that say they're going to write a book actually write it. And I was like, okay, I mean, it can't be that bad. And about 25% in, I was like, you know what? I don't think I have another original thought left in my brain. Like, I don't think I can think of anything else to say, but finally finished it. And
that's a daunting stat, 1%.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think something like 89% of Americans say they want to write a book, but only 1% will.
Oh, wow. Well, good. I'm in the 1%.
Yeah,
that's
you are.
Exciting. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay, I can do hard things.
Yeah, I can do hard things.
Yes, it was a total challenge because write on a blog, it's 500 words, 800 words, but chapters are like 2,000 to 3,000 words. And I had 18 chapters. I was like, this is totally different than what I'm used to. But I just felt like there weren't a lot of resources out there about that kind of in-between season of you graduate from high school, you go to college, you then get a job, and then all of a sudden your friends are working in New York and have these great jobs, or they're getting married, having kids, and you're kind of like, am I doing this right? Am I where I'm supposed to be? And there isn't really a right or wrong answer, but I didn't quite understand that when I graduated from Auburn and all my friends were getting married, and I was like, I'm getting my MBA. I don't know why, but I am. And so I kind of wrote it out of that. And a lot of it was in real time. I would have these stories happen at work or with my friends, and I would jot them down and then go write them into a chapter. So it was kind of a crazy process, but I'm glad that it's finally complete.
And so how long? It took you 6 months?
The first draft, let's see. I signed the book deal February 2023. I turned in my first draft October of that year, so maybe more like 8 months. And then in the editing process, so it didn't come out till a year and a half after I started all of it.
But that's still pretty fast, a year and a half. You know, I've been working on that's good. Yeah. So that is also very hard to write at the end of a day. Like you've been working, you're exhausted. It's sort of like exercising at the end of the day. Yeah. If I don't exercise sometime, I mean, it depends on my schedule, obviously, but I exercise every day. And if I don't exercise by 6, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, no, it's not happening. Yeah. I know. That was a hard adjustment because I'm the same way. If I don't exercise before work, it's not happening. When I get home from work, I'm checked out. I'm hanging with my friends. I'm watching TV. So that was, a new muscle that I kind of had to stretch and figure out, okay, I've got to do this. I'm not always going to be stuck writing at home. And I really enjoy it. And I've always wanted to do this. And I'm finally getting to live out a dream that I've always had. So I'm just going to be excited to do this. And then I'm going to be excited when it's done too. But it would be hard coming home trying to think of things to write after I just sat at work on a computer for 8-9 hours. So
don't you feel, I mean, not don't you, but I feel when I'm writing, like I love it so much. Like I love it. Like it's, I mean, I've heard that writing a book is work, and I get that. But
Yeah.
when you're passionate about something, and we'll get into the details in a second, but
Yeah.
when you're passionate about something and it's just like, I crave doing it. Like I get super sad when I have a day where I just cannot find the
100%.
time to do it. But it's such like, it's like a calling. It's like, it's like
it's a release. Yeah.
Yeah. It's what like feeds my soul in this way, in the creative way, not, I mean, obviously family but anyway, so let's talk about the book specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. So Cul-de-Sac Crossroads, it's all about navigating your 20s. My publisher was like, you really got to niche down. You wanted to be about your 20s. You want to be about coming out of high school into college. And I was like, I kind of wanted to be about everything. And they were like, you can't do that.
Yeah, I learned that too. Yeah.
Yes. So I was like, I guess I'm in my 20s right now, so I'll stick with that. But girls in high school have read it. Girls in college have read it. They've said it's been helpful. But basically, it's broken into 3 sections. So it's about who you are, and what you're meant for. So I figured out pretty early on in college, without kind of knowing where I was with the Lord and my faith. I didn't really know who I was and couldn't figure that out. So the first section's all about that. And the second section's about, okay, who am I? What do I like to do? What are my hobbies? Where do I find joy? All that kind of stuff. And then the last section's about making friends. So when I got to college, I'm a pretty extroverted person. I thought it'd be easy to make friends. But I also had just come from a high school where I graduated with 55 kids that I grew up with my entire life. So I knew nothing about making friends because I'd had the same friends since I was 4.
That's a really good point. That is, because I never thought about that. Like that, you didn't really have to make friends because you had 55 people that were there your entire life. You were in a small town, and wow, that's a good point. All right, sorry.
So the sorority rush was so daunting, and I didn't expect it because everyone was new. There were 2,000 girls going through rush, and then hundreds of girls in each sorority. And I was like, this is like 20 times bigger than my high school. Just this little section right here. And all these people I've never seen in my life. What am I doing here? But I quickly learned, okay, I want to make friends. How am I going to do it? So my second semester of college, I said, okay, every single week for the next 16 weeks, I'm going to meet somebody new for lunch. I'm going to ask the girl behind me at a workout class, do you want to hang out sometime? I'm going to ask the person in the chicken salad chick line, hey, you seem really nice. You want to get lunch sometime? And I did that for 16 weeks.
That is amazing. And if you're listening, golly.
Yes.
Do this. It was
easy. I mean, you just have to say, we've got dining dollars. We're going to eat together basically for free. Not really, but let's get something to eat. Let's just get to know each other. And some of the girls I really hit it off with. 2 were my roommates my senior year of college. I've been in like 2 or 3 of the weddings of the girls that I got lunch with that semester. And there were girls that, I mean, it was a great lunch, but we were like, we don't really have as much in common. And that was okay. One of them actually lives in Nashville, and I see her sometimes. And it's just nice to see a familiar face sometimes, so they don't all have to be your best friends. But I wrote about that in the last section about how you navigate friendships, how you navigate relationships in a digital age, because everybody's on these Instagram, social media, and it looks like everyone's having a ball in college. Everyone's having the best time of their lives when they graduate, wherever they are. And a lot of people really don't feel that way. I haven't felt that way the whole time that I've been out of grad school, especially. But I just wanted to be kind of more vulnerable and be like, you know what? It hasn't been all rainbows and sunshine, but my life is still really good regardless. But here's some tools to kind of help you that have helped me make friends, navigate figuring out where I want to go to church, where I want to work, what I like to do. So that's kind of where the idea for my book came from.
Wow, that is so amazing. And it's so, y'all, she's got it going on. And I love how vulnerable and you are, because I do know people like you were talking about, and I'm not trying to go back to sororities, but you were talking about when you were posting that you were having the time of your life when you first joined and you weren't. And so it's, it's really hard to see all that if you're struggling a little bit.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, when I got to college, I was like, well, I don't want to look like I got, my last choice. Let me look like I had the best time. I got the bid that I wanted. And I looked back the other day and people were commenting on me like, I'm so happy for you. You look so happy. I was crying in my dorm reading those comments because I was so sad about, what happened. But it ended up being so much fun. And I forgot to say this earlier. My sister ended up going to Auburn, and she was like, I'm not going to get the same sorority as you. And I was like, great. I don't really care. Like, you got to do what you got to do. And I was the new member educator the year that she was going through Rush. And so I was like especially glad because I was like, I don't want to have to boss my little sister around. So she's going to do her own thing. She's going through Rush. She's doing great. And then on pref day, she comes into Delta Zeta, and I was like, what are you doing here? Like, I thought that you were going to do something different. And she's crying, and she's not a crier. I was like, this is weird. And she said, I was in a sorority, and these two sisters were talking about their experience going through sorority together and how special it was to be sorority sisters and actual sisters. And so I'm going to go DZ. And I was like,
wow.
Okay, Cameron. Okay, this is awesome. So she goes DZ, and I'm the new member educator. I'm so nervous. I have 80 girls in my group. And I'm like, telling them things. I'm like, raise your hands if you have questions. The first meeting, my sister, she's laid out in the back like she owns the place. And she's like, Mary Spencer. Oh, is this about to be over anytime soon? And I was like, no one even knows we're sisters. Be quiet. Like, stop talking. So it was hilarious having my sister in my sorority with me. And now a lot of my friends are her friends. So anyways, I forgot to say that. But yeah,
can I please come and hang out with you and your sister?
Yes, please, please. She's actually in Atlanta. She just moved, but she is hysterical.
Clearly, I mean, both of you. I want to hang out with you all the time.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So back to your book.
Yes.
Talk to me about, do you have, and if you don't, I don't want to put you on the spot. Yeah. I mean, I kind of do, but do you have any like key points? I mean, I love what you did in college with the 16 weeks, one, conversation at a time. And I really hope people listening to this know, and I say this a lot, like, people want to be asked.
Yes.
It's nobody, I'm sure not one of those people thought, oh my God, creeper. One, you're not a creeper, but and you didn't look desperate. You just looked like you want to meet people. And that is, having the confidence to do that is really, really, impressive, but it's also something I wish more people knew. Like, just look around. And I said that to the girl who was miserable in her pledge class. I was like, look around. Somebody else on that lawn is also, doesn't matter what sorority, what school, somebody else is feeling not like rainbows and butterflies. Yeah. So look around and go up to that person and be like, hey, and just try to connect that way. You don't have to be like, oh my God, are you miserable too? Yes. But look around, and that's it. You make such a good point. Like, just do it.
Yes. And there's so many people that are just like, especially people that are more introverted, that are like, I really want to like make friends, but how do I even go about that? Just asking a person to get lunch or hang out. No matter if you have a million friends or not, you're always like, I'm so flattered that they want to hang out with me. And when I got to Nashville, I don't know why I keep moving places where I don't know anyone. It's just a thing that I do, I guess. But I got here and I was like, well, we got to do this again. So I did the same thing, got lunch with people that I didn't know. And the first girl that I got lunch with, I ended up being in her wedding. She was a barista at a coffee shop that I used to go to. I was just like, hey, do you want to hang out sometime? And then we ended up becoming such great friends. So, but it's hard because you're like, am I really going to put myself out there? What if they think I'm weird? I've never thought once someone was weird for asking me to hang out. It's what everybody wants. So that's definitely one way I encourage people, whether they're moving to college or to a new city. Just get out of your comfort zone. Ask the girl that you met in class to hang out. And honestly, she's probably going to be like, thank goodness somebody wants to hang out with me. So that's definitely something that helped me a lot in college. But it is daunting, especially going to a big school, being like, it feels like everybody knows exactly where they're supposed to be. The girls from Birmingham all know somebody that they can hang out with. And I have so many friends that are from Birmingham, and they were kind of like, I didn't want to do high school again. I want to make friends. So I was kind of in the same boat, but I kind of got stuck with some of my high school people to begin with, but then we branched out. So no matter if you know a million people going into college or to your new city or none, everybody kind of feels the same.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I went to Georgia from North Carolina, I mean, there's no way I could have gotten into Carolina, but it's really just trying to meet people from other places. I think it was not high school 2.0 is all I'm trying to say. And I feel like that is such a gift to not, which is, I think, what DZ did for you originally and being in Nashville, it's such a gift. Like, you're not doing, there are people that I think they're great and but they grew up in Atlanta, they went to Georgia, and they're still hanging out with the same people. And that is wonderful. And there's something so great about that. But there's also something great about not. Right. Like if you move back to Tifton, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with moving back to Tifton, but those people that went to college at Georgia and then are back in Tifton, it's a different life. And I feel like it's, if what you want is to broaden your circle, I think that's great advice. Just reach out.
I think that for me, I mean, it may be different for other people, but I don't think I would have figured out who I was outside of everybody else. And, my family or the friends that I grew up with, I don't think I could have figured out who I was if I just went to a place where I knew, a million people or moved back to my hometown. And who knows, maybe that'll happen one day. But I'm glad that I've had the experiences where I've been like, okay, I've had to figure this out on my own. And now I know who I really am before I bring all these people into the mix. So,
and it's also, you're very resilient. I have clients or friends who are in sororities aren't typically, again, I keep bringing it back to sororities because it is mad rush, but it's just reminding me so much of the things that I wish people would know. You go and you are in the same sorority with all the people from your hometown, again, nothing wrong with it, but you're not really able to widen your circle as much as you can. And it also, I'm sure your experience made you more resilient and strong in your faith and all of that. And that
helped a lot. When I got to college, I was like, well, since I know no one, I guess it's me and God. So we're going to be hanging out and I'm going to read my Bible and I hope you talk to me because nobody else is. So it definitely helps. Having that aspect of it. But whenever I was new member educator, I had an 80 girl pledge class. And I think I probably had maybe 6 or 7 girls that were like devastated. They got DZ, thought they were going to go a different sorority, were crying. And they were like, I'm going to drop. And I was like, if you can just give me 6 weeks, I have a feeling you're going to enjoy this way more than you ever expected. Just try, put yourself out there, get a little bit involved. And if we get to initiation and you're like, Mary Spencer, this is not for me, I'm out. I can live with that, but I need you to give me 6 weeks. And they all did. And they all got initiated and had the best time. I saw a couple of them on Instagram recently hanging out, having the best time. And I'm like, y'all wanted to drop and y'all would have never known each other. And now 6-8 years later, y'all are best friends hanging out all the time.
And that's what I tell people too. I'm like, just give it until the week before initiation. But but the thing you have to do is you have to really commit to trying because you can't, you have to make an effort and you have to say, okay, I mean, 6 weeks is not long. So and that is so great. And I could have finished that story for you because every time I tell someone, and if you can't if you know in your heart of hearts that you're not going to try, then it's not going to work. Yeah. But if you really just say, okay, I owe myself at least 6 weeks to try, I promise it works every time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could have finished.
Yeah. And that's what I told him. I was like, I was in your shoes. I got DZ and I stopped. And now here I am in charge of all the new members. I love it here. I have a feeling you probably are going to too. And there's a reason you're here. Right. And there are 80 girls. I have a feeling you're going to like some of them. I have a feeling. So,
and that's another thing I say. I mean, if you can't find 1 or 2 or 3, whatever people that you like out of 80 girls, and now it's more than that at most schools.
No,
I mean, the big schools.
Yeah.
I'm like, then you need to look in the mirror because you're not making an effort and you're not looking because everybody, everybody, like I said, people are coming from all over. They don't have
Yep.
preconceived notions. So,
Right.
and
Exactly.
just so you know, this is not like listeners, like it's not like she was in a horrible sorority or anything. I mean, it's just,
it's
she
awesome.
just,
I love it.
yeah, no, what I'm saying is and I know that's what you're saying, but I want people to know that this is, there are great girls in every sorority, period.
Oh, well, I would look around at Auburn and after I kind of got happy in DZ, I would go, I could have been happy in all of these. Like I really could have. I found my fit, but from what they say is the best sorority to the one that they say is the worst, I could have been happy in any of these.
That's because you're uniquely open, and that is what I just try to coach my clients.
Yep.
So are there any other, I mean, you've given such great advice, and I mean, I think you're a complete rock star, but are there any other like little tidbits before we close that you would like to?
Yeah, I think something that has helped me really through college, being an adult. It's so easy to look around and go, okay, I wish things were different in this area of my life. I wish that I had this relationship or those friends or that job. And so what I started doing is journaling down what I call joy bombs. So at work the other day, I had this 8-year-old come up to me and tell me this hilarious story and bring me a flower. And so I read down the whole story. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know what? There's so much good in the world. And when I look back at that list, I'm like, okay, life is actually really good. I love my job. I love my friends. I got to find what I'm happy with and not what I wish was different, because a lot of it's just out of my control. And my grandmother, when I was in probably middle school, maybe elementary school, gave me a journal to write down 3 things I was thankful for every day. And I did that for years. And I've done that as an adult too, because I think we forget often how lucky we are to have so many great things, so many great friends, so many great family members, and focus on the negative. And my brain can often go there. But I think something that's so helpful is going, okay, every day I'm going to write down a few things that have been so good. And looking back at my list from college, I'm like, gosh, yeah, that was really good. In the moment, there were a lot of hard things, but those few moments were really good. So that's been really helpful for me, just trying to focus on some of the really, really good things that are going on in my life.
Yeah, that is great. I'm writing it down, y'all. I'm writing 3 things I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, just simple stuff. I don't like to make things complicated. I'm like, let me write down 3 things and then let's move on with my day. But yeah, it's so easy to focus on the negative and on what everybody else is doing. I've had to take a few social media breaks just to be like, okay, this is not reality. This is not always what's true. Everyone posts their best moments. It makes sense. Why would you post your worst? But I just don't want to look at it every day, because I don't want to compare myself all the time. It's so easy, especially going into college, to go, I'm going to compare myself to this person, and I want my life to look exactly like theirs. And I've even had a few people that I knew at Auburn, look like they had the most glamorous life. And I'm 28 and I already know people that are getting divorces. It's just like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, you cannot compare yourself to everybody else, because you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors.
Yes, that's a big part of my book. Don't compare yourself, because you're the only person that can do you. Yep. You're the only one. Yep. So great advice. All right. Bama Rush talk. I'm going to see if you did your homework. Popularize the hashtag OOTD outfit of the day for Mad Rush. I am repurposing that hashtag OOTD into observation of the day. So what is Mary Spencer's hashtag observation of the day? Okay. It may be a hot take. I'm not sure. But this week this has been something I've been on fire about. We have got to get rid of Crocs. Why are people still wearing Crocs? Why am I seeing grown men wear Crocs with like a furry lining? Mm-hmm. What is going on? These are not real shoes. Camo Crocs, it's driving me crazy. I'm like, if you're over the age of 12, take those off your feet immediately. You are too old for that. I'm just like, I am in your corner. What is going on? Both of my boys have Crocs, and we joke about it all the time. Yes. And one of my younger son's best friends, he would wear them. He was is a baseball player. I don't know if he's playing in rec league. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he would say, all right, they're in sport mode now.
Yes. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, okay, if you have a real paying job, go buy some real shoes. I don't care what they are, but Crocs, I just think they have to go. I can't believe they made a comeback, but they have.
Oh my gosh, such a comeback. And I did embrace, just because I love like laughing about them. It's really funny that that's your observation, because this is a frequent conversation in my house. Yeah. Okay. And I did, I guess it was 2 Christmases ago, I gave my son, who is out of college, I gave him headlamps for his Crocs. And they were like, I cannot believe you did that. And I was like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. But yeah, exactly. I'm with you. Okay, so tell me where listeners can find you, and y'all buy this book. I mean, she's hilarious. She's faithful. She's smart. She is very vulnerable and real. So buy the book, Cul-de-Sac Crossroads.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, well, it's a good one. By Mary Spencer Veazey, double name. And tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Mencer Veazey, MENCERVZ. Please reach out to me. I would love to be friends. I'm on Facebook, Substack, got a website, maryspencerveazey.com. Love to connect. Love new friends. So
yes, clearly. And she wants to hear from you. And all of these places will be in the show notes. So guys, if you didn't write that down, please connect with her, because I think you will not be sorry.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Yeah, it has. I don't think I've laughed this hard in a very long time.
I'm so glad. That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and y'all stay tuned for Time Out with Trisha. Welcome to Time Out with Trisha. Because can you really give advice if you don't speak about yourself in the third person? I don't think so. This is exactly how I speak to my clients. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Now let's get into it. Okay, so that was really fun. Mary Spencer Veazey had some amazing advice, and my producer just said, and it resonates so much. She's like, it's so cool to have someone who's young, who has the same perspective that you do. And it's so true. I talk about this all the time, but I'm going to give you repeat some of her advice and give you some advice about everything. Everybody looks happy on social media. And just as she just said, she wasn't happy on bid day, and she was crying on bid day and subsequently. But if you really give it a try, commit to yourself, you're worth it. Commit to yourself. If you're unhappy with something, commit to actively trying to change it. And I like her 6-week, and that also coincides with sororities, but I like the 6-week plan. So commit for 6 weeks to really giving it a try and not having negative thoughts about it, whatever it is, for 6 weeks. If you change your mindset and try to think positively about something and make a real effort, I know in sorority world, but I can promise you that your mindset will be changed and you'll have a better attitude. If you're feeling lonely and you're alone, I like her just putting herself out there once a day or once a week she did 16 weeks, which is really impressive, but you don't have to commit to 16 weeks. Just do it for 6 weeks. Just say, okay, I'm going to ask people to do something. And I know it's hard, but I promise you, everyone wants to be asked. Everyone, no matter if they look like they have 5 million friends and they've been friends forever, she made a good point. They might want to branch out. So put yourself out there. Know that you're worth it, and you are worth putting the effort in to yourself, and start with 6 weeks and see where it goes. And that's it for Time Out with Trisha. We'll see you on another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Mad Rush Podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. For additional Rush tips, updates, and more, please follow me on Instagram at Rush with Confidence. If you would like to reach out to us or for more information, please email info@madrushpod.com. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry and Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Trisha Addicks.